Hi everybody, I'm coming to you live this afternoon to be sharing a few NAIDOC week updates, a bit of a lockdown lowdown, and most of all, what really excites me is sharing why I come here and do what I do, why I serve the way that I do and what that looks like, and the three main blocks to the change that you want, to being in that energy that you really desire. And we're just getting started with a bit of a powwow catch up because it's been a few weeks since I've been live, catching you live here. I found that energy about the last month or so and a few weeks prior to that, very challenging. I don't know if you did too, if you really noticed that an enormous shift took place. You certainly had the opportunity to, take the get on that roller coaster and take advantage of that support for the change in your life. And I definitely did not miss that bus. And it was a really transformative time, and really glad to say that I'm back coming here each week for our catch-ups where, you can ask me anything. And it's been a real pleasure really connecting into our First Nations people's culture and talking about different ways that people can be very conscious of healing country, which is the theme for NAIDOC Week this year. And it's as simple as some of the very specific ways that I share all the time. There is not a client of mine that does not know that the most important thing that you can do for being in the energy that you want to be in is taking off your shoes and getting outside onto the grass, onto the sand, onto the earth, and allowing that electromagnetic force to be reconnecting with you, because you spend so much time indoors. And that is so important in the lockdown, which most of us are affected by, even in Australia where it's been different to in a lot of other nations. We are currently in lockdown in Sydney, and I'll give you a bit of a lowdown on that. But this thing around the grounding of your energy, people talk about it. You see it in movies where one character may say to another, take off your feet and feel the surface beneath you. That thing of really activating those energy centers on the bottom of your feet. You will know that there are those very sensitive energy centers on the bottom of your feet. That's really critical, and it enables you to have a sense of being more centered, a sense of feeling more grounded, and that leads to you feeling more able to cope. So this is what Aboriginal people have been doing for many thousands of years in their cultural environment, their traditional ways of living. Obviously, metropolitan-based people are sort of channeled into that Western way of putting synthetic shoes on your feet, and changes the whole thing. So that's why what you can do is, when I was referring to healing country, it's much more about being with your soles of your feet on the earth and really connecting with it. And there are different phrases that you can use to actually do that if you so desire, and do that research through the proper channels. But what I know is that it is about, announcing your presence there and inviting the earth energy to be connecting with you and all of the resonant beings in that environment with you, connecting with you and asking what they need, it needs, and how this healing process takes place. And you might be surprised by the answers that you sense. Have a bit of fun with it, enjoy it, and respect these cultures that have existed a lot longer than certainly any of us have as individuals. And that respect for elders is such a vital thing in every community. And I'm referring to elders who are whole and healed, who are people that are really conscientious in their spiritual way of being. I'm not referring to every elder. Because you will know in the Western world we've got some great examples of elders that I don't really want them leading and influencing our next generation, but those that are conscientious in their spiritual way of being, absolutely. Bring them on, bring them forth, definitely. So there's been a lot of NAIDOC week, and I told a bit of a story when I shared the Gurumul mural on my page this afternoon, where I can so clearly remember the first time, it might have been that I had first connected with Gurumul's music was a different recording artist had passed away. I'm not going to name them, just out of, you know, respect for Gurumul, because this is what this conversation is about. And I went to the local CD and record shop, which, like, they were still collectibles when I was walking in there 10 years ago or more. And it was maybe actually more than that, about 15 years ago. And just the sound, as I stepped into the shop, I was already a bit, you know, touched and feeling quite emotional by this other artist dying, and then hearing Gurumul's music straight away, it was just too much. And that vibrational power of how sound and traditional cultural music will give you that opportunity to connect into that healing that's available to you. There really is no excuse to find what form of vibrational energy really supports you, because everything around you is energy. So if it's music, or if it's working with color therapy, or some people work, you know, with crystals and are really attracted and drawn to those, or if it's grounding, like I was talking about, or working with a practitioner that is a energy healer and can support you on that journey. And like, the list is so long, that's just off the top of my head what I can think of right away. So it's always available to you, and I'd wanted to share that little check-in about NAIDOC week there, and also giving you a bit of a lowdown on the practice, this practice of mine. So like I said, I'd been stepped back from going live each week like I normally do and connecting with you here, due to the stuff that was going on and the big transition that I was experiencing during that very challenging energy in the past couple of, it's not really a couple of months, but it's definitely 6 weeks or so. And just really going within was very important. It's not like professionals and therapists don't have to work on their energy as well. Of course they do, because they're like, I'm holding that space for everybody that I support. And, you know, I do it with corporate clients at a corporate level. I do it in that very esoteric energy healing level, and I do it in many different ways. But we're also, every one of you is being of service when you're with your family, when you're preparing the meals, when you're doing what you do, when you're going to work, and just making that contribution. We all need to step back from whatever it is, however it is we help others in our own way at different times. We need to take that step back. So that's part of what is the lowdown update here. But for me, in my practice, it's been a very long time since I've been an in-person only practitioner. My clients are often interstate or they're overseas, and that it's virtual. Like, we are using video meetings long before everybody jumped on Zoom, and I have a different platform that I use, and sometimes we just use Facebook Messenger as well for videos. Gosh, that sounded a bit New Zealand. I am not from New Zealand. And this thing of distance healing is available through my practice, and phone and video service, which it's not always about body work, which is what people often want when they want a face-to-face session. That would be Reiki sessions or channeled healings that are working on the physical body. There's so many other ways to be receiving what you need And there isn't an out-of-the-box set of magic tricks that fixes everybody, because all of you are on a unique journey. And that brings me to talking about, I mean, you know about my practice. You can find out everything on the website about how to book, how to make an initial inquiry, how to find out more about what's on offer, and how I support and guide others in our community through creating that space where you can be vulnerable and look at the stuff that's holding you back, which you obviously haven't been looking at, or it wouldn't be holding you back. And that brings me to the key area of today's connection, which is looking at like the 3 main blocks, which are kind of like mistakes that people often buy into or dive into, that really get in the way of them making progress to being in that energetic state that they want to be in, because you're always energy, you're like, that's always happening. But whatever level of density or the lightness and high state of vibration that you're experiencing is affected by what your focus is. And one of the first blocks is that a person might want change, and so they make an enormous leap. They just go for it. And they might say to themselves, I haven't been setting boundaries that are healthy for me, so I'm going to cut off this one, this one, this one. I'm going to leave my job and move town, and I'm going to do this and do that. And they drop it all. Like having the rug pulled out from them completely, but they've done it to themselves. And that is going to be very traumatic for you on a number of levels, because you've got your awareness happening at a mental level, so your conscious level, your physical level, and your energetic level, and your spiritual level. All of that is going to be completely thrown by taking such a massive leap without support, maybe without a plan. And people will do that throughout their journey, often early in their journey, and they will probably get their fingers burnt along the way. So that's one of the really big traps that people can do, which are not sustainable. And getting support around change is really, really important. But being open to wanting and going for the change, that's part of the process. And just getting the right support for you. And the support can come in the form of, suddenly someone might be recommending a book to you that sounds really right on time, or a podcast, or you see something that's an interview with a person who has a similar story, or took a journey that is the kind of breakthrough that you're looking for, and it can really set you on a trajectory that you can manage. There's lots of different ways that Spirit's going to be talking to you, but you've got to really be aware of trying to create a scaffolding or structure and foundation that will make the change sustainable for you. So that's where getting professional help is really worthwhile. And one of the second blocks that can really take you by surprise, because it's often very hidden, is your beliefs. And why beliefs can be hidden is because often they're not actually yours from your own experience. They will be inherited trauma, inherited belief. And so it can be things that you don't even remember, but you've taken on as a belief. And that's where that inherited nature of it, or through upbringing and family trauma, it can come through that way for you as well. I've worked for nearly 2 decades with people who have experienced very extreme disadvantage, and just knowing the place that you're coming from is only part of the story. When it comes to inherited trauma and beliefs, you just think that you're like that. You just think that you've always been like this. But it's really important to know that by working on where your focus is and what you're believing, and knowing that there are other possibilities, there are other realities and futures available for you, that is really key. And one of the ways that I know I've made a big impact on some individuals' lives is because the vision that I will channel for them is very different to what they may see as possible for themselves, because, you know, lots of us like to be quite humble or quite realistic, and, you know, you don't want to be too big for your boots, which might be something that is said a lot in your culture. But I don't really see it that way, because when you are aware of your infinite potential and your infinite capacity, you don't really think in those small ways. And so I will often see a completely different and healed version of those that choose to work with me, which enables them to have a much bigger launching pad for the change that they want. It's very exciting. It's obviously why I do what I do. And if I had, at different junctures in my life, if I had let those moments define me, there's no way I would be sitting where I am now, because I didn't take on those beliefs that were showing up and wanting to be taken on. Because I didn't do that, a whole new world opened up for me, and I want you to have that too. There's nothing that brings me more passion and pleasure than enabling others to be fully connected to that truth, you know, their soul song, what they want in their lives, and not to be shut down and completely disembodied from that, which I can explain more. Tell me in the comments below if you want me to talk about embodiment and that type of aspect of your journey. And don't hesitate, excuse me, to ask in the questions below, in the comments below, excuse me, if there's anything else that has come up as a question for you. The last of the three types of blocks that often come up for people is throughout the journey of working together, excuse me, I'm out of practice of going live. Throughout their personal journey, we might do some work together, or in the initial experience of getting to know about becoming more intuitive, becoming more grounded, more connected to their truth, they may be very aware of repeating cycles and patterns that they've experienced in their life, and that they don't want these to happen. And they start diving into the work, and they don't get the change and the results they want. And then they decide that it's not possible for them, and they give up. And I find it's quite rare in the work, because usually people that choose this path of pursuing alternative therapies and energy healing and seeking their truth, they are usually pretty committed to it. And when this does happen, where a person does not back the change that they want, does not back themselves, it's a foregone conclusion. It will be a block to their healing. And I can stand before you and say that healing from the most complex types of experiences and trauma is possible. And you are the healer. You are the one. You just need others to be supporting you in creating that foundation for you to spring from. So those are three of the main blocks that I see people getting really stuck with. And I hope you found this valuable and interesting, and let me know in the comments below what you'd love to hear more about. I love coming back and answering and responding as best I can after the live, and I look forward to connecting with you here every week. I'll put the link to my website below where you can find out more about what's on offer, what's coming up, and in the next few weeks there will be huge stuff coming up for you. We've got a free community right now. We've got our closed subscriber community right now, and we're going to be opening up a first one-of-a-kind program in the next few weeks. So I'm really excited to be sharing a bit more about that with you as the month goes by. So thanks very much for joining me here today. It's been lovely having you on this journey, been seeing each of you joining, and I'll look forward to connecting with you here next week. Bye for now.